What a wild and crazy day it was, but at the same time, it was very, very good. You may have saw my episode, Casey Atwood, of Mark's 25 Days of Christmas, where my friend and the music instructor at ViaQuest, Carrie Ratushin, did that holiday rockin' the Robbie Draco Rosa Ricky Martin show with Crash Push and Aye 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 It's Christmas. But what you didn't know is that a few hours after that, we had a catastrophe in the restroom with my girl Margaret. So I'm gonna save that conversation for another day if I want to reminisce on it 2 months from now or something like that, you know what I mean? But that's beside the point. Today, I'm here to talk about the breaking news that came out of the NASCAR community today, in the NASCAR world, the NASCAR universe, however you want to put it, while I was on the bus ride home. The Petties are merging with GMS for Petty GMS racing, and guess what's back into my NASCAR life to cheer for again? The 42 car. But of course it's not with Montoya because, considering that was Sandhurst and Brook Park, and the fact that nowadays compared to back then, he bores me now. But Ty Dillon's going to drive in instead of the 94. And I actually like that better, considering that, I get to cheer for the 42 car again. Just like old times when Juan Montoya was my driver in the Target Chevy, and before that, the Texaco Wrigley's Dodge. Makes me feel like a child again. And not only that, it's going to make me feel like this is like the phases of Kyle Petty and Juan Montoya rolled up in one. Like I'm living in a combination of the Sandhurst House and the Lenore House and Brook Park in Michigan. It's like all those worlds collide, all those worlds and phases of mine from when I was a child and a teenager collided all in one world. And so Ty is going to be driving for the Petties. So I not only get to cheer for the 42 car again, just like I did when Montoya was my driver, but I also get to cheer for the Petties again, just like I did as a little boy when Kyle Petty was my driver after we lost Dale. Considering that Dale was the first driver I cheered for in my first race, which was the one we lost him in. One race and 199 laps away from a Hall of Fame career. So I want to talk about that. So I'm really excited to relive my childhood as a soon-to-be Ricky Rudd 28-year-old. So maybe, I have this old feeling that the only way, even in the 94 car, I think, if Ty was driving the 94 like initially planned, I think this would be the case too. I feel like the only way Ty is going to win his first Winston Cup race this year, excuse me, Daytona or Talladega, where all the good cars, all the drivers that normally run in front every week outside of Daytona and Talladega, all crash out, and gives a chance for an underdog to win the race, or two, some crazy ass fuel mileage strategy or pit strategy in general at a non-play track. Or three, a weather shortened race. That's the only way. I know there's going to be people discrediting him, not as badly as they're be discrediting how they discredited Bubba when he won this year's EA Sports 500 at Talladega, but there's still going to be people discrediting him, considering had he won a race in the 13 car, like he almost did 6 times at least, even if he would have won it fair and square, there would have been discrediting him. All the people who, use the silver spoon shit with him in Austin, but yet won't say the same thing, have no problem, Chase Elliott, Ryan Blaney, Dale Jr., Kyle Petty, even no-name drivers like Stephon Parsons, or drivers from the past, Davey Allison, who else? Well, there was, Dale Jarrett, Austin and Ty are not the first person to get first drivers to get help from family to be in the sport, and they sure as hell won't be the last, Even though I was a Kyle Petty fan myself back in the day, he's one of my all-time favorites. If they're gonna call Ty and Austin spoon-fed, I guess you could say the same thing, like I said, Kyle Petty, with Richard, or even Adam before he died, or Richard, with Lee, Dale Jr. because of Dale Sr., Kerry Earnhardt because of Dale Sr. as well, Chase because of Bill, Ryan Blaney because of Dave, Davey Allison because of Bobby, but then you say, but those only difference is they keep winning while Austin and Ty don't win as much. Who gives a shit? Chase and Blaney could have 100 wins in their career tomorrow. I still think of them as spoon-fed, like the brain-dead jackasses would say about Austin and Ty, considering It doesn't matter how many wins they have or how much they win, how much, all that, they, if they win frequently or not. Spoon-fed is spoon-fed is successful or not. Considering that, like I said, would you be saying the same thing if you like the spoon-fed driver that didn't win as much, like Austin and Ty? That's what I thought. That's part of NASCAR these days. I get it. There's people who work their way up, and some people, without family help. But most drivers don't have that kind of money. Money talks. You know how you dumbasses defend, like the real talentless and slow ass people rolling chicanes like Quinn Houff or the Rick Ware Racing douchebags. Or, Christian Fittipaldi and J.J. Yaley, money talks. Money talks doesn't mean you're good. Money talks doesn't always mean you're good. Sure, for Kyle Larson, maybe. Yeah, I get that. But like Quinn Houff or the Rick Ware assholes or, back in the 2000s, J.J. Yaley and Fittipaldi, Christian Fittipaldi, when Gibbs did Bobby Labonte dirty for 2005. And, the Petties did the same shit 2 years earlier to John Andretti for the same thing. Well, it's not. I will always be a lifelong Petty fan. Don't get me wrong. The same way I've always been a lifelong RCR fan as well. But that doesn't necessarily mean that what the Petties did to Andretti in 2003 was wrong, because Fittipaldi was never any good anyway in other rides. Andy Petrie Racing in the one-off Daytona 500 in 2003. He was never good, in that one-off, and for his Winston Cup debut at the Chuck Auto Parts 500 in 2002 and the 44 car. Not to mention that even in the, Black Flag Matters made that NASCAR Buzz video of Fittipaldi, and I totally agree with that video. However, he did not just drive, technically he drove two different rides for the Petties, the 43 and the 44. He never drove the 45 consistently. He was never hired to drive that. Only reason why he drove that 45 car was because Kyle Petty was out injured from a crash at Bristol the week before. The infamous Ward Burton Robbie Gordon tangle that sent Ward into the inside wall, came back up, hit Kyle Petty right in the door, which gave him rib injuries. That's the only reason why Fittipaldi drove the 45. Other than that, he never drove the 45 again whatsoever. But even substituting for Kyle, he wrecked the car. Fittipaldi wasn't all that good. He never finished a single race on the lead lap. Not even with the Andy Petrie Racing in the 2003 Daytona 500 with that one-off. He never finished on the lead lap in the Busch Series, driving that 30 Mike's Hard Lemonade Chevrolet Monte Carlo. Fittipaldi wasn't as good. And I already know, even if Ty Dillon doesn't run up front frequently and doesn't doesn't win on a consistent daily basis, I already know he's going to be better than Fittipaldi ever was, considering that, he came in the 13 car, he came closer to winning races in that Geico Chevy more than Casey Mears, Max Pappas ever did combined. Considering that they only minor and major at the same time, highlighted Max Pappas's Cup career in the 13 was the underdog story of him making the 2010 Daytona 500 by a landslide on speed straight up. That was the only thing. The only time Mears came close to winning a race in that 13 car was the 2016 Pennsylvania 500 that got called off with the weather shortened event, not due to rain but due to fog. If Mears would have stayed out one lap longer, considering that, would he have won if he would have stayed out one lap longer or pitted one lap later or something like that? I don't remember, but either one of those two, he had a chance, if, he would have played the strategy, and if the strategy would have fell into his hands that day, he would have had a slightly different strategy than Buescher. Then, he would have won the 2016 Pennsylvania 500. Other than that, those fellas never came close to winning a race in that 13 car, while Ty should have won at least 6. To me, he should have won at least 6, maybe more races in that 13. That includes the 2020 EA Sports 500 and the 2020 Bank of America Roval. The Roval in 2020, he had a hot rod, he had a fast car. It was just that he got spun out, coming out of the infield into the turns 1 and 2 part of the Charlotte Oval. And then when he rebounded, he tried to catch a perfect caution by trying to pit before the caution came out, closing the pit lane. considering that if he would have made it, wouldn't have to pit with the rest of those guys under caution, and maybe he would have got back in the race and probably would have won it, for his first race. But no, he didn't make it to the line. That was like his last shot at winning a cup race in the 13. But I feel like he can actually come a little closer to winning a race in the 42 car. Not better than Larson, obviously, considering I used to be that guy's number one hater. But even though I was the Montoya fan, he'll probably be better in the 42 than Montoya ever was, honestly. Even though Montoya is one of the greatest drivers of all time in racing in general, he's just not respected by NASCAR fans for how he hit the jet dryer. Kyle Petty's speaking of which, Kyle Petty's retweeting I can't talk. Kyle Petty's retweeting shit, so let's go. Lean with it, Kyle Petty. So, yeah, the only reason why Montoya gets disrespected by NASCAR fans in general because of the jet dryer incident. I agree with the ones who will get really angry with that, and I get them. But the only reason why I even bring it up myself to joke around about it was because I actually liked Montoya. And not only that, even better, or let alone even worse, I was at that race for my 18th birthday as a junior in high school, living in the Sandhurst House in Brook Park. And now, that was why my dad planned that Florida vacation, which is now infamously called the 2012 Crazy Florida Vacation. So, yeah, considering that Montoya was my driver when that incident happened, with me being there in person to celebrate my 18th birthday, it was a hell of a way to become an official legal adult, but an embarrassing moment as a Montoya fan. That's my only excuse as to why I even ever bring it up in general, or just joke about it joke about it alone, or let alone bring it up in general. Other than that, I totally agree with the NASCAR fans who actually respect Montoya for the driver he was across motorsports in general. Considering that, he did come, even though his only 2 wins came on the road courses at Sears Point in 07, Watkins Glen in 2010, he did come close to winning many oval races, including the 2009 and 10 Brickyard 400s. 09 was his fault for speeding and the final pit stop. 2010 was Brian Patty's fault for questionable pit strategy, where most of the front runners took 2 tires, but he was amongst the front runners dominating that race. It looked like redemption from 2009, but then, Brian Patty took 4 tires compared to everyone taking 2. Although, even though he did win 2 weeks later at the Sirius at the Glen, it didn't make up for blowing Indy 2 years in a row. And I get why Brian Patty said in that post-race interview that the Brickyard was his fault, and that totally made up for it, them winning at Watkins Glen. But to me, maybe it makes up for that race. Maybe it makes up for 2010 alone, but it doesn't make up for the fact that you blew the same race 2 years in a row. So you get what I'm saying? It's like, take a look at it that way. So I look forward to seeing the 42 back on track and actually wearing 42 gear again, but this time not with Montoya, but with Ty Dillon. And I look forward to sporting Petty gear again, and hopefully getting the die cast so I can actually put the stuff with my, put the Ty Dillon die cast on the die cast shelf in the man cave with the Kyle Petty stuff. And maybe I can put some Ty Dillon Petty die cast. I have a 2003 standard Georgia Pacific paint scheme die cast of Kyle Petty in my my display case in my office with 2 Kyle Petty glasses, beverage glasses I'll never use to drink out of. And so therefore I might put a Ty Dillon car in there, maybe a Ty Haley a Coke bottle. I have a bunch of Ty Haley Coke bottles to find with, just TY, and then of course HALEY to find, so I can add it to the collection. But I'm going to figure that out in the years and months and weeks to come. So I will see you all later on tonight for the Spurs-Knicks game. And I stand corrected on, my post about how wild and crazy and good the day was. It's not in New York, even though I thought it was. It's actually in San Antonio, so that was my mistake. So it's one game at home. Isn't it a home game? I'll double check, but I thought I did a double take on the bus today and saw it was a home game in San Antonio rather than a road game in Durham. But I'll double check and take a look. You'll know in my Spurs game review later on tonight. So I will see you all later on for that. And always remember, life delivers you lots of lows, but whenever you hit a high, enjoy it. See y'all tonight, everyone. Go Ty.